Communications?
I have nothing. I believe at the last board meeting, we were discussing the infographic, and that I had spoken with the mayor about potentially including it in the water bills, but he wanted to meet with the finance committee to discuss, and Tim, I think you had said that you spoke with him, and he said for you to contact him.
Yes, he was looking for after the new year and would like to meet with a member of the finance committee, which would be me, Dr. O'Malley, and also a person that had part in putting the infographic together. So I've reached out and asked Alan Kita if he would be willing to be present. He has agreed. So the next step is going to be finding possible dates for Mayor Chimura that work for all of us, and we will proceed with that.
Great, thank you. Finance?
Finance, nothing new to report, but I do want to mention in past meetings, we've been looking to expand the finance. We've been doing this for a while, and based on the effort that was put forth through one of the members of the communications committee with the infographic and the information, we had asked Mr. Alan Kita if he had any interest in being on the finance committee. He has sent through a letter of intent, and we've seen his involvement with the communications and willing to work on a school. And tonight I would like to ask the board to agree to bring Mr. Alan Kita onto the finance committee.
Is anyone opposed? So be it, we appoint Alan Kita to the finance committee.
Thank you, sir.
He doesn't have his right.
You're doing it the beret. There we go.
Great.
We will probably need to open it up to add somebody to the communications committee.
I'm sorry.
We'll probably need to open up the communications committee to replace Alan. Are you going to still sit on? Okay. Then he's going to sit on both of them.
Right. Double D. Thank you. Negotiations will go over in closed session. Norwich Park District.
Nothing new to report.
ISAB, nothing to report. Old business, the board policy update, the third reading. Does anyone have any questions on the proposed policy updates?
I do have one comment. I believe one of the policies deals with the change in the calendar, expectations with the change in the calendar. And ISBE, from my understanding, has made a change in the expectation. So there was a change in the evidence-based formula that led the calendar to go from 174 days to 176 mandatory days. ISBE has changed the regulations back to the original expectations. So I'd be cautious if we adopted that particular policy, because we're going to be right back here unadopting or changing that policy back.
But right now we are in attendance 176 days a year.
We're 174. What the state would require under the new EBF formula was 176, meaning we'd have to add 2 days. What ISB is saying is it would go back to the original for us with expectations that we have, which is 174.
Which number is that? Are you referring to it? In the...
Off the top of my head, I'm not certain, but I know that it was on this set.
I don't see it on the set.
Okay. Okay, so I'll take
it's
another.
not. It might be in the upcoming. I didn't see anything about the calendar itself.
Okay.
Right. Right. Thank you. New business, repairs of the lift at Lee. We just talked about that. Board comments. Discussion. I need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I will motion.
I will second.
Discussion.
I would like to motion that we take G and H out and leave those as separate line items.
G and H will be a separate line item. Any other discussion? So the motion on the table is to approve consent agenda, all of them except for G and H, which we move to a separate line item. Roll call, please.
Mr. Ludston?
Yes.
Mr. Bionda?
Yes.
Mrs. Florida?
Yes.
Mr. Anastasia?
Yes.
Mr. DeShulio?
Yes.
Motion approve the consent agenda. Discussion, motion to approve the contract with Michelle Guzik, Principal Lee School, 2018 to 2019 to the 2021 and 22 school year.
I will make the motion.
I'll second.
Discussion?
I think that we at least need to address Mr. Palazzo's statements at the beginning of this meeting regarding potentially waiting to vote on these to allow, because there are 5 seats up on this board, and within the next 3 months, this board will change. I mean, that's going to happen, and to allow them, the new board, to set the trajectory for how contracts, multi-year contracts, will be awarded.
Any other discussion? So Jennifer, how would you think that we should deal with day-to-day businesses of the school, for example, like the lift, it's $25,000.
That's not a multi-year issue. I'm talking specifically things, contracts that are multi-year. If the lift was for $25,000 this year, $16,000 next year, and it was a multi-issue, then I would say that needs to be needs to be discussed at least. Neither one of these contracts are ending. They're ending at the end of the summer, I believe. Once the new board would then be sworn in and be able to review it. And again, they would be the ones who decide. That's who the community is voting to sit up here to decide who is going to be, how the contracts from that point on are going to be awarded.
I do have a comment on this as well. The business is a business and contracts come up, and just because of the situation, there would have been 4 seats available. It was an election situation that's making it 5 seats available. There's been a lot of fingers pointed over the past years, and there's no excuse for it, but when a board comes on, as I did as a new member 2 years ago, there's a lot to learn, there's a lot to get into, and these contracts cannot wait. They have to get done, and it cannot sit. And these are typically multiple year contracts. These are not 1-year contracts. You can check with any surrounding school district, whether it's grammar school or high school. Extensions, sure, there are extensions. Contracts are typically multiple year. But even in this very room throughout this year, there's been accusations of what did you do signing, what did you do signing. And you did this your first year on the board, you did this your first year on the board. There's no time, this is normal business. And at least for myself personally, I can say I'm very diligent in looking at the contracts and looking at the long-term effects, because that's something that over many previous years, the future has not been looked at.
You're absolutely right. There is a new learning curve, but with 5 seats up, and the fact that the contracts, neither one of these contracts are going to expire before the new board is seated and has the opportunity to review them, and then they get to vote on it, they being the people who this community is electing, because 5 seats are up. I mean, I think we're tying their hands.
Right, but we're also tying the hands of the administrators and
They're
the
not
teaching
going anywhere.
staff.
Their contracts go until correct me if I'm wrong,
Right, but
July?
So what do we do with all the current day-to-day work that's being done right now?
They're still under contract. They're still doing their work. I think we're of 2 separate mindsets. So you're thinking that if we don't extend the contract, that work at the school ends today, whereas
No, it
both
doesn't
of their
end today.
contracts continue. And so it's not like they're suddenly going to walk out the door tomorrow and we're going to be left, without principals in the schools. They have their contracts. They are going to stay to fulfill their contract. We're not saying that we're not. Nobody's up here saying that they don't deserve, they haven't earned, that 3-year contract. I'm saying that since there are 5 seats, which means the majority of this board potentially could change, meaning that the community is voting in those 5 people to make the decisions for us, that we as a board should not be tying their hands to 3 years.
Does anybody on the board think that the motive for this contract is to lock the 2 principals in and block out the next board? That's my question, because it only goes to 2022, right? Does anybody, is that, does anybody believe that?
But
I
it's
didn't
also,
think
you
that-
have talent, so I believe that the two principals, it's an ask for us to have. And I'd rather have them have a contract than for them to start looking otherwards and looking at other opportunities, because there's a lot of other opportunities out there.
Of course.
And so that's where when you have good administrators, good leaders of the school in a sense, and we've seen growth, they've done everything that the board has asked them to do as on that administration team, that's the reason why I feel that they need a contract, is that I want them to stay because they've done an excellent job of leading both schools.
Right, what I'm trying to ask is that, and with all due respect to the questions that the community has, when we discussed these contracts, from my recollection, the motive was never to lock people in and then block out what the next decision of the board is gonna be. So I just wanna make that clear. I didn't see that when we were discussing it. So, and these contracts go to 2022, is that correct? Okay.
Can we get a roll call, please?
Mr. Ludston?
Yes.
Mr. Biondo?
Yes.
Mr. Adisarka?
Yes.
Mrs. Paletti?
No.
Mr. DeGiulio?
Yes.
Motion approved.
Bad call.
Motion approved the contract for Michelle Guzin, Principal, Lee School, 2018-19 to 2021-22 school year. Discussion, motion to approve the contract for Stephanie Palmer, Principal Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum and Instruction, Giles School for 2018-19 to the 2021-22 school year.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Ludston?
Yes.
Mr. Biondo?
Yes.
Mrs. Paletti?
No.
Mr. DeGiulio?
Yes.
Mr. Adisarka?
Yes. Motion approved the contract for Stephanie Palmer, Principal Assistant Superintendent Curriculum and Instructional, Giles School for 2018-19 to the 2021-22 school year. Discussion, motion to go to closed session, motion to adjourn to closed session to discuss the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees, possible litigation, and collective negotiation matters.
I'll motion.
Second.
Discussion? Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Biondo?
Yes.
Mr. DeGiulio?
Yes.
Mr. Adisarka?
Yes.
Mrs. Paletti?
Yes.
Mr. Ludston?
Yes.
Motion approved to go into closed session at 7:25. We'll take a 5-minute